Let us take up the first chapter of Class 11 NCERT book Hornbill. The chapter is titled The Portrait of a Lady and has been written by Khushwant Singh. I'm sure you all must have heard of Khushwant Singh's name. Let us know a bit more about his life and his works. Khushwant Singh was an Indian author, lawyer, journalist and a parliamentarian. He was educated at the Government College Lahore and at King's College, Cambridge University. He was a prolific writer, best known for his effectively expressed secularism, humor, sarcasm, and a deep passion for poetry. His experience during partition of India in 1947 inspired him to write his most famous novel, Train to Pakistan, in 1956. This classic novel was later made into a famous Hindi movie with the same title in 1998. His Saturday column, With Malice Towards One and All, in the Hindustan Times was one of the most liked columns of the day. In 1974, he was honored with Padma Bhushan by the President of India, an honor he returned in 1984 in protest against the storming of the Golden Temple by the Indian Army. His book, History of the Sikhs, is regarded as the most authoritative work on the Sikh history. Narrated in the first person, the story is a memory piece. And before I begin with its explanation, let me introduce you all to its brief outline. Well, in this story, Khushwant Singh has paid a loving tribute to his grandmother, who was his companion, guardian, friend, and a caretaker. He has drawn a very interesting pen portrait of her. He has presented her as a very religious and down-to-earth lady who believed in values. He has written about the special bond he shared with her and also about the changing phases of their relationship as years kept rolling by. He has given a vivid description of the last day in his grandmother's life, thus ending the chapter on a very poignant note. Let us begin with the chapter now. My grandmother, like everybody's grandmother, was an old woman. She had been old and wrinkled for the 20 years that I had known her. People said that she had once been young and pretty and had even had a husband, but that was hard to believe. Here Khushwant Singh gives a physical description of his grandmother. He remembers her as an everlastingly old person, a very old lady with a wrinkled face. It is difficult for him to conceptualize that she too had been young and pretty once, like other women, and even had a husband. The reason is that for the past 20 years that he had known her, he had always seen her as an old lady. The next few lines are about his grandfather. Let's read. My grandfather's portrait hung above the mantelpiece in the drawing room. He wore a big turban and loose-fitting clothes. His long white beard covered the best part of his chest and he looked at least 100 years old. He did not look the sort of person who would have a wife or children. He looked as if he could only have lots and lots of grandchildren. The author says that his grandfather's portrait hung on the wall above the mantelpiece, and in that portrait he wore loose-fitted clothes, a big turban, and had a long white-colored beard that reached his chest. He too appeared very old, so old in fact that the author thought that he was someone who could have only grandchildren but not a wife or children. As for my grandmother being young and pretty, the thought was almost revolting. She often told us of the games she used to play as a child. That seemed quite absurd and undignified on her part, and we treated it like the fables of the prophets she used to tell us. The author repeats the phrase young and pretty, and he does so to emphasize the fact that he could never imagine that she was young and pretty ever, and it is this thought that he refers to as revolting or shocking. She used to tell him and other children in the house about her childhood memories, like the games she used to play as a child, and they found these stories illogical and disrespectful because it was beyond their imagination to think that grandmother too was once a child and played such games. They thought that her life's stories were just like the other moral stories of prophets or saints which she used to tell them. She had always been short and fat and slightly bent. Her face was a crisscross of wrinkles running from everywhere to everywhere. No, we were certain she had always been as we had known her, old, so terribly old that she could not have grown older, and had stayed at the same age for 20 years. Grandmother's physical description is very important. So how did she look? She was short, fat, slightly bent in her posture, and her face had lots of wrinkles. Crisscross of wrinkles means lots of wrinkles. She seemed very old and had been the same for the past 20 years. She could never have been pretty, but she was always beautiful. This line is very important. It means that grandmother might not have been physically attractive to look at, as she was old, short, fat, and slightly bent, but she was a beautiful soul, beautiful because of the qualities of head and heart she possessed. She hobbled about the house in spotless white, with one hand resting on her waist to balance her stoop and the other telling the beads of her rosary. The author says that she walked around the house in an awkward way, wearing spotless white clothes, with one hand on her waist for support and the other hand counting the beads of her rosary. A rosary is a string of beads for keeping count of number of chants of a religious prayer. Her silver locks were scattered untidily over her pale, puckered face, and her lips constantly moved in inaudible prayer. Yes, she was beautiful. Puckered hair means wrinkled. The author says that she had silver-colored hair, which was not neatly combed and was disorganized. She was constantly chanting prayers. Yes, she was beautiful because of all these qualities. She was like the winter landscape in the mountains, an expanse of pure white serenity, breathing peace and contentment. Expanse means wide area, serenity is calmness, and contentment is sense of satisfaction. So this line depicts that grandmother has been compared to a winter landscape in the mountains. Let's understand this. Just as during winters, snow-capped mountains seem to exude peace and calmness, similarly, grandmother, clad in her white robe, always praying, seemed to be an embodiment of peace and contentment. Next part of the text would show Khushwant Singh's relationship with his grandmother, which was based on pure love. My grandmother and I were good friends. My parents left me with her when they went to live in the city, and we were constantly together. She used to wake me up in the morning and get me ready for school. So like a caring guardian, the grandmother would do everything for the grandson when his parents left him with her to settle in the city. She used to wake him up every morning and get him ready for school. She said her morning prayer in a monotonous sing-song while she bathed and dressed me in the hope that I would listen and get to know it by heart. I listened because I loved her voice, but never bothered to learn it. Grandmother would recite her prayer with a belief that grandson would learn it by heart. Khushwant Singh, in a very candid manner, says that he listened because he loved her voice, but never bothered to learn it. Then she would fetch my wooden slate, which she had already washed and plastered with yellow chalk, a tiny earthen ink pot and a red pen, tie them all in a bundle and hand it to me. After a breakfast of a thick, stale chapati with a little butter and sugar spread on it, we went to school. She carried several stale chapatis with her for the village dogs. So grandmother would pack all his stuff for school. She would make his things ready, like a wooden slate, a tiny earthen ink pot, and a red pen. For breakfast, she would give him a thick stale chapati with butter and sugar spread on it. Then both used to walk to school. Khushwant Singh says that his grandmother used to carry stale chapatis with her to feed the village dogs. This depicts that she was kind-hearted. My grandmother always went to school with me because the school was attached to the temple. The priest taught us the alphabet and the morning prayer. While the children sat in rows on either side of the veranda singing the alphabet or the prayer in a chorus, my grandmother sat inside reading the scriptures. When we had both finished, we would walk back together. This time, the village dogs would meet us at the temple door. They followed us to our home, growling and fighting with each other for the chapatis we threw to them. The author's grandmother would accompany him to school because the school was attached to the temple. While Khushwant Singh would study in his school, she would sit in the temple to read the scriptures, again showing how religious she was. Then both of them would come back together, feeding dogs on the way. When my parents were comfortably settled in the city, they sent for us. That was a turning point in our friendship. This part shows the second phase of their relationship. It was the turning point in their friendship, and it came when they moved to the city to stay with the author's parents. Although we shared the same room, my grandmother no longer came to school with me. I used to go to an English school in a motor bus. So certain things happened which changed their relationship. Though they shared the same room, the grandmother no longer accompanied him to school since he had started going by a school bus. There were no dogs in the streets, and she took to feeding sparrows in the courtyard of our city house. So dogs were replaced by sparrows in the city, and this daily activity of feeding sparrows helped the grandmother in combating her loneliness. As the years rolled by, we saw less of each other. For some time, she continued to wake me up and get me ready for school. When I came back, she would ask me what the teacher had taught me. As years rolled by, they saw less of each other as Khushwant Singh got busy with his studies and hardly had any time to spend with her. For some time, she continued to wake him up and get him ready for school. As he would come back from school, like an inquisitive parent, she would ask him what the teacher had taught him. The next few lines are very important, students. They would give an answer to the question as to why was the author's grandmother disturbed when he started going to city school. So let's learn what were the reasons. I would tell her English words and little things of Western science and learning, the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, the world being round, etc. This made her unhappy. She could not help me with my lessons. She did not believe in the things they taught at the English school and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures. One day I announced that we were being given music lessons. She was very disturbed. To her, music had lewd associations. It was the monopoly of harlots and beggars and not meant for gentlefolk. So Khushwant Singh's reply made his grandmother very sad, as she didn't believe in Western science and learning the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, the world being round, etc. She was pained to know that no teaching about God and the holy books was imparted in the city school. She was disturbed at the idea of music lessons being given at school, as she considered music to be unsuitable for gentlefolk. According to her, it was meant only for beggars and promiscuous women. She said nothing, but her silence meant disapproval. She rarely talked to me after that. Her disapproval was reflected in her silence. She was dismayed and withdrew herself to some extent. Perhaps she had realized that her prominence in molding her grandson had diminished, and this very thought affected her gravely. But she was a very firm person with immense self-control. She always refrained from showing her emotions and kept to herself whatever she felt in her heart. When I went up to university, I was given a room of my own. The common link of friendship was snapped. My grandmother accepted her seclusion with resignation. Snapped means broken. This was the third phase of their relationship. When Khushwant Singh went to university, he was given his own room, and with this, the common link of their friendship was broken. Seclusion means the state of loneliness, and resignation means without protest. So grandmother was left alone, and she accepted this growing distance and her loneliness very gracefully without any protest. She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. From sunrise to sunset, she sat by her wheel, spinning and reciting prayers. Only in the afternoon she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. These lines describe the way grandmother spent her days when Khushwant Singh grew up. She would be busy spinning her wheel from sunrise to sunset and would be all the time reciting her prayers. In the afternoon only, she would feed the sparrows for half an hour and relax. While she sat in the veranda breaking the bread into little bits, hundreds of little birds collected round her, creating a veritable bedlam of chirrupings. Some came and perched on her legs, others on her shoulders. Some even sat on her head. She smiled, but never shooed them away. It used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. Veritable means real, and bedlam means noisy confusion. So grandmother would sit in the veranda, breaking the bread into little bits, and hundreds of birds would come round her and chirp. Some of the birds would come and lovingly sit on her legs, and some on her shoulders. Some even sat on her head. This shows the bond and level of comfort they shared with her. She smiled but never drove them away, and this used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her, which she spent with these sparrows. This depicts that she was kind-hearted. In village, she used to feed dogs, and in the city, she made friends with birds. When I decided to go abroad for further studies, I was sure my grandmother would be upset. When Khushwant Singh decided to go abroad for higher studies, he was very sure that grandmother would be upset with this. I would be away for 5 years, and at her age one could never tell, but my grandmother could. Tell here means predict. Khushwant Singh would be away for 5 years, and as grandmother was old, one could not predict the future. But grandmother, it seems, knew that she would be there, very much alive, when her grandson would return home after 5 years. She was not even sentimental. She came to leave me at the railway station, but did not talk or show any emotion. Her lips moved in prayer. Her mind was lost in prayer. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of her rosary. Silently she kissed my forehead, and when I left, I cherished the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. These lines describe the parting scene at the railway station. Grandmother was not at all emotional. She did not talk, but kept on counting the beads of her rosary, reciting prayers. When she silently kissed Khushwant Singh's forehead, he anticipated that perhaps that was the last physical contact between them. He thought so because he knew she was very old and might not survive till he completed his education and came back home. But that was not so. After 5 years, I came back home and was met by her at the station. She did not look a day older. So when Khushwant Singh came back after 5 years, he was received by the grandmother at the railway station. There was no visible change in her. She looked the same even after 5 long years. He found her even more religious and self-possessed than earlier. Read these lines. She still had no time for words, and while she clasped me in her arms, I could hear her reciting her prayers. Clasped means hugged. The author says that even after he had come back, the grandmother was busy reciting her prayers. Even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer and with frivolous rebukes. Frivolous means insignificant or not important, and rebukes are scoldings. The author says that even on the day of his return, she did not give up feeding the sparrows, which was her religiously followed routine since many years. Feeding the sparrows was her only happy activity of the day. But just the day before her death, for the first time in so many years, she broke this routine and abandoned her prayers. Read these lines. In the evening, a change came over her. She did not pray. She collected the women of the neighborhood, got an old drum, and started to sing. For several hours, she thumped the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum and sang of the homecoming of warriors. We had to persuade her to stop to avoid overstraining. That was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. Thumped here means bet, sagging means loose, and dilapidated means old. The family noticed a drastic change in the grandmother. She did not pray. Rather, collected the women of the neighborhood, bet the drum, and sang songs related to the homecoming of the warriors. The family members had to stop her to avoid overstraining. However, the next day she fell ill. Read these lines. The next morning she was taken ill. It was a mild fever, and the doctor told us that it would go. But my grandmother thought differently. She told us that her end was near. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life she had omitted to pray, she was not going to waste any more time talking to us. Though diagnosed with a mild fever, she knew that her end was near. She decided to spend the last few hours of her life reciting prayers and telling the beads of her rosary. She did not want to waste any more time talking to anybody. She was distressed that she had neglected her prayers just before the final exit from the world. We protested, but she ignored our protests. She lay peacefully in bed praying and telling her beads. Even before we could suspect, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. A peaceful pallor spread on her face and we knew that she was dead. The family members tried to stop her, but she ignored their protests. She lay peacefully in bed, constantly praying and telling the beads till her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. No one around her realized the time when she left for her heavenly abode. When the family members noticed a pallor, which means paleness, on her face, they realized that she was dead. We lifted her off the bed and, as is customary, laid her on the ground and covered her with a red shroud. After a few hours of mourning, we left her alone to make arrangement for her funeral. In the evening, we went to her room with a crude stretcher to take her to be cremated. The sun was setting and had lit her room and veranda with a blaze of golden light. It was a heavenly sight. We stopped halfway in the courtyard. Now, in the last stage of the story, a silent tribute is paid to the grandmother by the sparrows. After her death, the family started making arrangements for her funeral. When they entered the house with a stretcher, they had to stop midway to find thousands of sparrows scattered around her dead body. All over the veranda and in her room, right up to where she lay dead and stiff, wrapped in the red shroud, thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. There was no chirruping. We felt sorry for the birds, and my mother fetched some bread for them. She broke it into little crumbs, the way my grandmother used to, and threw it to them. The sparrows took no notice of the bread. When we carried my grandmother's corpse off, they flew away quietly. Next morning, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. So the sparrows had flown in to mourn her death and sat around her body in complete silence. They flew away silently after the body was carried away for cremation. They even disregarded the breadcrumbs thrown to them by Khushwant's mother. The breadcrumbs were swept away by the sweeper the following morning. So that was the way the sparrows paid their tribute to that noble soul. Thus, the story throws light on the need of companionship and friendship felt by our elders. It also shows how love and emotion is experienced not only by human beings but by animals and birds also. Thank you.